Thanks everybody. Welcome. The keynote this morning was awesome. I hope you all got a chance to sit in on it. It's always impressed with some of the speakers that we have here at NEARC. That's an impressive group. So my topic here is sort of a wide-ranging one. I titled it "Getting More of ArcGIS Pro." And then I just added in sort of like tips, tricks, and assorted functionality, and then a little chastisement of you are using it, aren't you? So hoping that more people are adopting Pro. I will hopefully be able to convince you of its strengths and show you a few cool little things. Some are new, some are not so new, that might entice you to make the move. I'm hoping I have a lot of material, but I'm hope to keep some time for Q&A, but feel free obviously to put the Q&A into the Whova app, and Tom and Krithka will be monitoring those, and we will either try to hit all of those during the session, or like I said, hopefully I've got a little bit of time at the end and we can catch the rest of them, and if not, we will catch them afterwards. Okay, so as you can see, my email is mscott@esri.com. You can always get a hold of me there. For those of you who don't know, I'm an SE solutions engineer here in the local government team in the Boston office. Been here for 24 plus years, mainly working with local government customers in New England and New York State. So that's county and municipalities. And I should advance the slide. That would help. Okay, so we're here to talk about Pro. So when we talk about ArcGIS Desktop, we're talking about two different application families. So one is ArcGIS Pro, which is our new flagship desktop product. And then the other one is this combination of ArcMap, ArcCatalog, ArcScene, ArcGlobe, often referred to as desktop, but I've also heard it referred to now basically as ArcMap. When they say the word ArcMap, they really mean ArcMap and Catalog, Scene, and Globe all sort of put together as like a group of applications. So those are our legacy and currently supported apps for the desktop, and Pro is our currently supported and going forward application. So big differences, for those of you who don't know, ArcGIS Pro is 64-bit multi-threaded. This is a huge deal because it allows us to do things like work with 3D data very easily, which is why we don't need separate applications for things like scenes and globes. It's all easily integrated in. It's got a much better graphics pipeline, which is very flexible and allows us to do a lot more things. So the 2 and 3D experiences can be more integrated. It's bound closely to the portal/online world. So there's a seamless use of data from like hosted feature services or anything else that you might get from ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS in Enterprise. Okay, multiple maps and layouts, which is great. We used to have that and we lost it and now we get it back. So in Pro, you can have as many layouts as you want, as many maps as you want. That has a big impact on things like map series, which I'm going to talk about. The analysis tools are all now 64-bit, obviously, because it's a 64-bit platform. We no longer have to have a 64-bit application layer that we install on top to give ArcMap capabilities for 64-bit processing, and simple search and query is all built in. The Pro interface, this is one of the big pushbacks I get from folks. They say they really don't like it. And I get that. It took me a while to get used to it. That was many years ago, but I sort of force myself to work with it more and more. Now that's easy for me to say. I mean, I'm not out in a production world where I have to like get work done on a daily basis that, you know, somebody's breathing down my neck to get like a map out or something. So I get that, but give it a chance. I think you'll find not only will you get used to it and find it to be extremely productive, but you'll like it. I like it very much. In fact, when I go back to ArcMap now, which is very infrequently, I find it very awkward. I like the fact that the contextual interface presents me with tools and functionality when it's appropriate to do so. No longer am I clicking on tools to edit raster layers when I'm focused on a vector layer or something like that. It pulls the tools up when I need them, and I like that a lot. And I've gotten used to the project concept to the fact that we have a project that encapsulates all of the work and the data and the maps and whatnot. I kind of like that too. So there's a lot to be said for this, and I know it's hard getting used to stuff when it's new, but stick with it. I think that eventually you'll come to really appreciate it. Interestingly enough, I talked to folks that are brand new users that have never used ArcMap, and they absolutely love the Pro interface. I think we're just already used to it. Like I said, the applications are fused together, so map, catalog, scene, and globe all into one in Pro. I won't say that City Engine is fused with ArcGIS Pro, but it's very tightly integrated with it. It's bound together. They share a lot of common code and data formats and whatnot. So the relationship between City Engine and Pro is very tight now, if you're doing that. The analysis tools, like I said before, we have this analysis tab, and all the analysis tools from ArcMap are now in here. We've got interactive analysis tools, we've got the geoprocessing pane, we've got model builder still in there, which is awesome. It's greatly enhanced. There's a lot more labeling capabilities and grouping capabilities and ways to structure the model. The Python window is still there. Juniper notebooks, which I don't have on this slide. Tom's going to talk about that later. Network analysis, all your image and raster analysis is all available. It's all in this one place, and it's all very smart and contextual, and obviously running off the 64-bit platform, so you can do a lot more with it. Now, speaking of analysis, I threw this into the analysis category because it's data analysis, because I wanted to show this. This is a extension called LocateXT, and we've shown this in several user seminars. And yet, I find it interesting where I will be talking with a customer and they'll start describing a problem, and I think to myself, oh, that's what LocateXT does. It pulls coordinates and attributes out of documents, just unformatted documents. And so, maybe the information about the fact that this thing exists is not getting out there enough. So I thought I might chat about it a little here today. So what you can do with this tool is you can extract text from unformatted documents like Office, docs, spreadsheets, Word docs, and then other things like PDFs, text files, CSV files, etc. There's a whole range. It's in the documentation of which ones you can do. And then you create rules to extract attributes and coordinates from various formats and various languages out of the document, and then save it in a feature class. So this is really pretty interesting extension. I will say, full disclosure, it is an extension. It is not free. It's something that you add on to your ArcGIS Pro desktop tool, and I would encourage you to chat with your account manager for pricing, because I really don't even know what it costs. Maybe I should have thought of that ahead of time. I think it's standard extension pricing, but I don't even know what that is. So you might want to chat with your account manager about that.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting. We're getting a fair amount of extra sound as though you're in a windy place, and I know you're not in a windy place, so I'm wondering if your headset is either a little bit too close to your mouth or bumping up against something.
Nope, I had a fan on. Which I
Well,
usually
it was
turn
windy.
off, and I completely forgot to turn it off.
All
So
right.
sorry about that.
No problem. Sorry to
Thank you
interrupt.
thank you for pointing that out.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's take a look at LocateXT real quick. So here is an example here where I've got a map here, and it's got a picture of the Yucatan Peninsula on it, and we're looking at some archaeological dig sites. And so you can see I click on one of these and I get some information about it. I've only got a couple in here. And what I'd like to do is to locate some more of them. And I'm going to locate these from this set of documents. So I've got some 500 plus documents here in this folder, and they range from Word docs like this one here. And you can see I've highlighted where I've got some text for the name of the site, the country, the date, which in this case is in Spanish, and then the location. Okay, so I've got some Word docs in here. I've got some text files. So just some random text files. I've got some comma separated variable files. I've got some old PDFs where I've highlighted again, showing what those look like, in all sorts of various different formats. So the thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take these and I'm going to locate them using locate XT. So to find locate XT, you go to your add data pull down and you select extract locations. So if you have a locate XT license, then you will, this will pop up, and if not, it will, it'll basically just come back and go, you don't have anything. So I will go ahead and grab these and drag and drop them here into my window. So I've pulled all of these files in, and now what I do is I end up doing a couple of things. So I've set up a template. I've called it My Mayan Sites. This is going to follow all my rules. I'm going to put a name for where I want this stuff to be extracted. So I'll call it NEARC demo. Oh, I don't know. I've got like 3 or 4 in here. I'll call it 3. And then I can pull other things in, like I want to set some properties. So, how do I want to do this data extraction? Well, I'm gonna create the fields from the dates. And when I go in here and I find these dates, how do I want to do that? Well, I'm going to use Spanish as my language, and I'm going to merge that with my current settings. So I want to make sure if I find words in Spanish, I want to be able to translate those. I've got custom attributes, and I've set that up here in this custom attributes template to say that to find the country, I'm sorry, we're going to look for these country names, and we're going to capture that keyword, and we're going to look 150 characters before and after the actual coordinate that I find. So I'm going to do that for things like the site name and the date it was discovered and all sorts of stuff like that. Okay, so I'm going to leave that in there. Some other things that I've got are, as far as like the locations go, I'm going to say interpret these as latitude and longitude. So we know they're XY coordinates, but we're going to use these as lat longs. Then I'm going to go ahead and extract the data. So there it is, and it pops up here in this window where it's going to show me all the data that was extracted. Okay, so each one of these is going to come in, and if I've done this correctly, I'm going to get my text, and I get my coordinate, and then I get this first date and earliest date and latest date. So it looks in that text window and says, well, maybe I found more than one date. So I'm going to put these in a field called first date, earliest date, latest date. There's the extracted date text. So you see that was in Spanish, and then it translated that over to an English format for me. And then it was able to pull out some of the other attributes that I had that I wanted to get, like the country name, and then the site. Okay, so that's pretty cool. That did that really fast. It scanned through those 547 documents pretty quickly. And then so in a layer I had earlier, I took it and I re-symbolized it based on the age. So the age, so we were able to extract that date of when it was discovered, and then we just sort of back calculated that, so then I could see like when the when this particular site was discovered. So the darker ones are like the oldest ones, and that's Tulum, which is pretty famous, actually, a pretty famous archaeological dig site in Mexico. So as you can see, that's pretty interesting how that can go in there and just pull all that text out. So that was cool. I wanted to show that. That's the only one I'm going to show that's actually like an extension that's not included in the core. Let's talk about some other stuff. So geometry editing, I think, is much simpler. The 2 and 3D editing is totally integrated. So editing in 3D is no different than editing in 2D. Used to be, we had a different toolbar for 3D editing. That's not the case. Everything is consistent. The software knows, Pro knows if it's editing a 3D feature, and it will present you with 3D feature editing tools. If it doesn't have a 3D component, you will not get those tools and you won't see them. So it's pretty easy. You can edit shape files. You can edit file and enterprise geodatabases, not a problem. You can work with topology just like we could with ArcMap. It's got a very CAD-like editing experience. I kind of like that because I came out of the civil engineering world and I used to use AutoCAD a ton, and AutoCAD's a great drafting tool. And so having these more CAD-like editing tools is very handy. And the last thing I would say is the editing of hosted feature layers is seamless. With ArcMap, you had to work at it. You had to, basically what it did was create a local copy of the data, and then you'd work on it, and then you'd push it back up and sync it. And it was just, it was awkward, and it often didn't work very well. So we had a lot of problems with that. Pro was built by the get-go to work seamlessly with anything in a hosted environment. So a layer that comes from ArcGIS Online or a shapefile on your desktop, the Pro could care less. It's gonna treat it the same way. It uses this as starting at 2.6. They greatly enhanced the undo redo capabilities and the undo redo stack for hosted layers as well. So that all works in there. Awesome. So that is another great tip. So if you're working with hosted data, you're definitely going to want to do this. Attribute editing, I think, is far better in Pro. And when I say that, I also am talking about working with the data structure of the attribute table. So managing fields and domains and subtypes, in my opinion, is much easier in Pro. There's just, I don't think there's any comparison. It's really easy to work with. You've got this nice interface, and you can add new fields, and then you commit the changes, and then you can add some domains and commit those changes, and everything works right along there. And if something's locked, it's going to let you know. It's going to like, hey, you're in the middle of changing this field. You can't add a domain to it yet. You got to save it first. So it sort of lets you know what's going on there. Another relatively new capability is contingent values. And I think contingent values is really powerful. And so I want to show that. And I don't think it's really used all that much. I think it should be used more, but it's a great way to enforce data integrity. So let's take a look at that. And I'm also going to show you a couple other things. So first of all, I'm going to save this project. And then I'm going to open another one. I'll save that template. That's fine. And I don't need that window anymore. Okay, so first of all, here I am in this water layer. It's a sewer manholes for a particular customer I was doing some work with. And as you can see, I've symbolized it with a manhole symbol. And I often get asked, hey, wait a minute, every time I go to use Pro, the only symbols I've got are like a bunch of standard squares and triangles and all this stuff. How come in your project you've got like crime analysis symbols, and you've got water wastewater symbols, and you've got all these other stuff in here like government symbology from like the civic data set? Why don't I have that? All I've got is like, I've got like these 3D symbols, and I've got some circles and triangles and push pins. And so, what's going on with that? So there's a couple of things here. One is that if you go to your catalog window and you go under styles and you right click here, you can say import a style. And then you can browse to where your ArcMap styles are. So in Programs 8.386, ArcGIS Desktop 10.8 styles, any of the styles that you really knew and loved in ArcMap, you can go ahead and import those. Okay, so like the Civic style set, you could pull that in. If you wanted the newest version of the styles that is available online, then I would go to Portal and select ArcGIS Online and type in STYLX, which is the file extension for styles. And that searches ArcGIS Online and comes up with all the style sets. Okay, so these are all the ones that are curated. There's actually a site for this that I can link you to. Maybe we can put that in the chat or something, but to show you like all the current styles that are in there. So there's crime analysis, real estate, ordnance survey, 3D basic, dimensions, civic is in there somewhere. This should be alphabetized. Unfortunately, it's not. But so these are all the styles that are available on ArcGIS Online. So that's where they all are. And you can always see like what styles you've loaded by looking in your styles folder in the project. So you can see this is water wastewater from ArcMap that I imported, and this water wastewater _en that came from ArcGIS Online. Okay, awesome. So we've got these manholes. Okay, so each one of these has got maybe some information about it. So let's go ahead and go look at our attributes. And I can say like, here's one here. and it's got a manufacturer, material, and a size. I'm getting all these errors. It's like, what's going on here? It says attribute doesn't satisfy a required contingent value. So what's that all about? Okay, so well, what we can do here is we can go ahead and like open up this layer in the designer. So I'm going to say, go ahead and get me my data, which is in this Ontario folder. This is from Ontario, California. Go to Ontario 10, here to manholes, and I right click that and click on design. Okay, and I can say design fields. Okay, so it shows me, oh, here's all the fields. So if you want to make a new one, how hard is that? Well, it's not very hard. I've got new field button up here. I've got a new field spot down here. I could just click on that and I could say, you know, I'm going to put in like, oh, I don't know, like condition. So like some sort of condition. And so that's going to be text. And I'll leave the size, that's fine. So it shows it here in green. That means it hasn't been committed. I click my save button and I've made a new field. Okay, great. That was pretty easy. Okay, so now what do I do with those fields once I've got them? All right, so I've got a new field. Maybe I want to put a domain in there because I don't want to have them just type in like good, bad, or otherwise. So let's make like a new domain. And then I could say the domain is going to be like COND domain for condition domain. And this is also going to be text, and that's coded values. And maybe I'll put like, oh, I don't know. We'll just put in like bad and good, just because I'm feeling lazy. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to put all these in here. Okay, so just a couple of condition codes for bad and good. Then I say, go ahead and save that. Okay, so where do contingent values come in? Well, I've got these other fields in here for like the manufacturer. And you can see I've got a manufacturer domain, I've got a materials domain, and I've got a diameter domain. So this is going to show me like things like, here's the manufacturer, and I'm going to spread this out here. And you can see that I've got 4 manufacturers. I've got Mark's Manholes, I've got Tom's Terrible Equipment, and I've got Pretty Good Manholes and Manholes from Mars. Okay, so we got all these different kinds of manholes. And then we got different materials. So we've got steel, cast iron, old rotten wood, plastic, plutonium, unobtainium, and glass. So some of these are farcical, obviously, but I thought I'd have a little bit of fun with it. So then the problem is, well, you know, not all of these manufacturers make all of these materials. And not only that, we've got this diameter domain, which says, you know, what's the size of the manhole? Is it 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 feet? What do we do with that? I mean, not all of these materials come in that certain size. So I want to be able to validate that. So I do that with these things called contingent values. Okay, so I can go ahead and close that and open up my contingent values window. And you can see that I've created a contingent values group. And what that says is that Mark's Manholes can have cold hard steel 1 foot, cast iron 1 foot, cold hard steel 2 feet, and cast iron 2 feet. Those are all the combinations that I will allow. I will not allow someone to put in a Mark's Manholes glass manhole. That's not going to happen. Tom's Terrible Equipment, all they make is old rotten wood 1 foot manholes. So that's the only combination that we'll allow for them. Okay, so you can see how that works. So that means when I go back here to the editor and I go to the attributes, that's why I get this error. And it says, first of all, you got a null value. So if we put in Mark's Manholes, I say, okay, then what are my values? I could put in like cast iron 20 feet and say, nope, you can't do that. That's no good. Okay, so I got to make sure to do that the right way. All right, so you can see over here, I've got Tom's Terrible Equipment, and he's got an old rotten wood manhole 1 foot in size. And that's the only choice I've got. I have only 1 foot inside. I cannot put like a 20-foot old rotten wood manhole in there because it won't permit it because of the contingent value. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I like that. So I think contingent values, check that out. There's a sort of a related concept called attribute rules that I don't have time to go over here today, but you might want to check that out too. And an attribute rule is a way to like auto-populate columns based on rules that you write with Arcade. So this that's another really cool functionality that, like I said, I don't have time to go over that today, but the contingent values thing is pretty neat. So I like that. Okay, so while I'm here in this document, I'm going to show you quickly, and this really is quickly because it takes about 2 seconds. This is a layer I've got for bus stops. So these are bus stops in the greater Syracuse area from Centro. Thank you, Paula, for working with your data. So you can see, and I can look at one of these and say, right, so there is Geddes and Marcellus Street. What's the big deal? Well, there is no big deal. The big deal is that this is a hosted layer from ArcGIS Online that I put here into my map. And the big deal is that it's no big deal. It's no big deal for me to go in here and say, these two bus stops have both been inspected, and I'm going to mark them as such. Okay, it says there are uncommitted attribute edits. Do you want to apply those? Yeah, go ahead. Thank you very much. Gives me a little message. You can now undo and redo individual edits as well as save or discard groups of edits for the current feature service. So this is new. Okay, this is new at 2.6, and it's and 2.5. And it's just, you can dismiss this message. I left it up so you could see it. Okay, so basically, like, all of the functionality of editing feature services is intact. Okay, so you can always edit feature services right here, right inside of Pro. So that's awesome. We like that. Okay, mapping and visualization continues to improve with multiple layouts. We've got that. That's all great. Map series and reports and map graphics continue to grow. Map graphics is new. Map series, the old data-driven pages, continues to go. So let's take a look at that. So let's go ahead and open up my LocateXT demo again. And say we're working on that area where we geolocated a whole bunch of those archaeological sites. And we just like to sort of annotate that right here in the map. And before, we had to make another layer, another feature class, and put annotation layer and a line layer and all that other stuff. Now we just come up here at the top and say add a graphics layer. Okay, so then we get a whole graphics tab where we could say, hey, I'm going to go in here and draw this line. I'm going to say this is up the coastline, and I'll give it some symbol, highway. That's not a highway, obviously, but that's okay. And I've got the ability to put in some free-form text. So maybe I'll just put that in, and I'll put Tulum coastline, and would probably make that a different size. I'm gonna get my zoom thing out of the way. Thank you. Go over here. Let's use a better font size, maybe 22 point, something like that. Oops, probably do the whole thing. So, whatever. In the interest of time, I'll just leave it there. My terrible editing. And then the other thing is you could put graphics in here. So of course you would want to put a graphic of your favorite Premier League football team in to let everybody know that you're a Liverpool Football Club supporter. So as you can see, you can put graphics in here to your heart's content. I know 3 or 4 customers specifically that were very upset that this capability was not that was not included in Pro when Pro first came out, and now it is in there. So you can create graphics, a graphics layer either in the layout or in the map to your heart's content, and help to annotate those layers. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Okay, we like that. And the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was a map series. So if I look at my layout here, you can see that I've just created this very bland layout. But the fact is that each one of these now in the layouts can have a map series in it. Okay, so I could set up a map series to say, you know what, I'm going to go through this set of bookmarks. Okay, so I'm going to have bookmarks set up, and now I can step through each one of these. So I can see I've got a map now for the Northeast Peninsula, for the Southeast, and the Central. So that's great. And if I had a different one where I was going to do this by a grid, so maybe like a classic tax mapping situation, where I've got a tax map for a town or a county, and I've got all of this stuff in here. And what I'd want to do is maybe I'll go to my tax map layout, and I'll look in here and say, hey, do I have a set of spatial bookmarks? And say, yep, sure do. There they are. Okay, so every page now has its own layout, and this is a very lame tax map. My apologies to Matt from Woburn for making his awesome data look so crummy. But there you go. I'm not a cartographer, I'm just an engineer. So each one of those now can have a tax map for it. So as opposed to before in ArcMap where we had data-driven pages, now we have this setup here. Okay, so that's great. Sharing is really easy with ArcGIS Online. You can share pretty much anything. You can package up anything and then put it up in your portal, or you can just go ahead and publish it. So for example, if I go back to this project here, and I'll do this really quick. I know I'm going to run out of time. So if I wanted to go ahead and say publish some of this data, it's as easy as going to the Share tab and saying create a web map. So I could create a web, whoops, and we get a crash. Yay, excellent. So what would a demo be without something crashing on you? That's pretty much the way it goes. Okay, so I'm gonna let that finish freaking out, and I'm just gonna go back to my PowerPoint. Please get out of the way. All right, not sure what happened there. Okay, so is ArcGIS Pro a replacement for ArcMap? And the answer is yes. 10.8.1 is pretty much the last release of ArcMap with feature function enhancements. After this, it's just going to be patches, updates, and new environment certifications. You can always go to the ArcGIS desktop product lifecycle page, and it will tell you exactly when what our plans are for when ArcMap will move into, say, mature support or retired support, or like when it goes to like email support only and all of that stuff. So it's on its way. I'm going to say you probably got like another 6 years or so to do this. So it's don't panic, but you should really think about starting to use Pro more. Importing map scenes and globes is very easy. You can pull any of those in. You saw me pull in a style set from ArcMap. You can also import a map document, a globe, or a 3D scene, and those all just come out just fine. There's no, there's really no differences whatsoever. Those all just come in. Okay, licensing for Pro is done in 3 different ways. You've got your named user account, which is from ArcGIS Online, which comes with every desktop license, or you can use your good old standard classic single use or concurrent use. Okay, so that's not a problem. We support all of those. In fact, I flipped over from using a named user license to single use. I had a reason to test that the other day. It's very simple. Okay, so you can license that pretty much however you want. It also supports virtualization. It's not a problem. We can do that. Can even do virtualization off in the cloud or off premise. We have customers that are actually doing that. It is customizable. We don't have VBA like we did in ArcMap per se, but you've got the .NET API is still there for you to use, or you can use Python. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with Python and Python toolboxes. There's really pretty cool and pretty interesting. And the use of Arcade for customizing is starting to grow a lot more as well. The things that are new at 2.6, I've talked about some of these already, but there's this thing called a voxel layer, which is really cool. It's a 3D layer that's it's got a lot of power, and there's been a lot of requests for that from the academic folks. The suitability analysis tool is really pretty crazy. I was looking at that the other day. I really wanted to include that, but that's really like a whole 45-minute session all unto itself. It's a great suitability analysis tool that allows you to build these models and then look at them. It's really fantastic. Project recovery, that's new. You got a project that's somehow crashed and you can't seem to get it back. You can set it up to do an auto save, and then you can recover it after the fact. Saving web maps, I already sort of went over that, talked about that. Bookmark map series, I showed that too. So there's a lot of other things that we're continuing to add at 2.6. The map graphics I also showed. For those of you who are doing a lot of parcel mapping, we've got least squares adjustment. The LSA tool has now been integrated in to ArcGIS Pro. So now we can take our land boundaries and bind those to survey control and perform a least squares adjustment on them as time goes by, as we increase the capabilities of, the accuracy of our horizontal control network. So that's another thing that's coming in. Certainly not going to say they're not working on more stuff. I was talking with Kevin, who's on our land records team, the other day, and we were chatting about, we did an online presentation for New York counties, the offices of real property. And we were talking about least squares and some other things. And he said that at 2.7, which is our next version of Pro, for all intents and purposes, will be 100% feature function equivalent to ArcMap. So anything that you could do in ArcMap, you'll be able to do in Pro. Now, I would put some caveats on that because, for example, Pro will never work with a geometric network. That's the thing that you do in ArcMap. Pro uses the utility network, so that's a new data structure. Pro also has its own version of the parcel fabric that's different from the parcel fabric that you use in ArcMap. So there will still be some subtle differences, but for all intents and purposes, like your standard tools, what you do with layouts, how you edit data, geometry manipulation, anything that you could do in ArcMap or Globe or Scene or those other tools, and all the analysis tools, those will all be in Pro. So that is on the current product plan. So I have managed to finish with 5 minutes left. So Tom, do you want to jump in and sort of review some of the questions?
Sure.
Turn my video back on.
Yeah, put my video on as well.
Oop.
God, I don't know why it turns me into a ghost, but video-wise, see if I can change that.
Sorry about that crash. I got a driver error, so I've got some graphics driver thing going on my laptop.
All right, I'm not going to turn my, well, I can leave my ghost video on if you want, but okay, questions. So one question is about styles, like why aren't styles just loaded like they, are in ArcMap or whatever? And, it could be just, it's really because of the way Pro is designed as a project, and not all projects need all styles, etc. But you can create a project template, and in that template, you can add the styles that you like. You can also add layouts and database connections and other things. Save that as a template, and then just use that as the starting point for all your projects, and it will have those things loaded for you. You can also share those templates with others via online or your portal, or a shared network drive, etc. That's one question that came up.
Yep, that's a good point. I like that. That the template concept is, I could have shown that. That is a way to do that. It was explained to me by someone on the Pro team that one of the reasons ArcMap started so slow was because it's loading like every single symbol set.
Yeah.
They're like, well, let's just load the symbol sets we're using in this project.
Right.
No, that was their design decision.
I don't know that we need to go into answers, and I think you already made a bunch of points about why Pro over ArcMap, but I will point people to the Q&A on Whova, because not only have we put some answers in, but a bunch of your colleagues have put answers in as to why they find Pro to be advantageous over ArcMap, and those things range from better editing, a nicer interface, better output and cartography, et cetera, et cetera. So feel free to add to that
Awesome.
as a user, and also, take a look at that.
Cool.
What else do we have here? There's a question about any good recommendations for books, et cetera. There are a bunch. I'll just point out, Mark, you can add, and Krithka can add to this. There are a bunch of learn lessons about getting yourself acclimated with Pro for ArcMap users. There's even is there a class?
Yes.
Half-day class or something?
Yeah,
I don't know.
there's learn lessons that are free. There's classes that are free if you're on maintenance. There's classes you can pay for. Some are oriented around, hey, you're an ArcMap user and you want to get into Pro, or some are oriented around, hey, you're just new to GIS, you want to get into Pro.
Right.
This book here is great.
There you go.
Okay, this is what's the title? Switching to ArcGIS Pro from ArcMap. You can get this from Esri Press, so you can get it on Amazon, I'm pretty sure. This is an awesome book. And then this is in its second edition, this Getting to Know ArcGIS Pro. This is fantastic. This is a great book. The first edition was really good. It's in its second edition. They're probably going to come out with a third. But you know, as you can see, it's pretty hefty. It's not a small book.
Right.
But those are the two that I have here on my desk, and I know that there's more. So yeah, and all the learning. You can get some tips from your account manager who will connect you up with a training consultant. This is also free. This is part of your maintenance, and they can give you like a learning path for. I'm a Pro user. I'm an ArcMap user. I want to get really good at Pro. What's the learning path that I need to go down?
Right. I'll try to squeeze in a couple more before we switch to the next session. Graphics layers, can we convert them to features like we can in ArcMap? And the answer is not in 2.6, but that's on the roadmap. I don't know if that's a 2.7 thing or later, but it's definitely something that's coming.
Yeah, good question.
And I think in the interest of time, 11:13, we're going to stop there. And I will just say that if you're planning on going to Adam's talk about geospatial strategy, which is next, you do have to drop out of this Zoom session and click on the link in the agenda to join that Zoom session. And as I think Mark mentioned, and we've mentioned in all our sessions, the Q&A that are here, we will, if we missed anything, we'll try to get answers put in there and keep our eye on that. So you can always come back here and see answers and maybe even ask more questions.
Yep.
And I'll just also remind you that tomorrow morning we have both a road ahead session from some Esri directors, et cetera. And then also a Q&A with some of the Mark, Krithka, and me answering some questions that you've asked. So encourage you to join those. So with that, I'm going to drop out and join Adam's session. And Mark, I don't know if you have any closing thoughts, or Leslie. I'll leave it to you.
No, that's it. If you're in charge of managing GIS group at all or interested, Adam's session is awesome. It's great. So thanks for attending, everyone. And we'll be back for more in other sessions.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.